Hi folks, it's Tom at psychsafety.com here, and we've just published an article on self-organized criticality and how it applies to workplace and organizational culture and failures and accidents and incidents. And so I just wanted to do a video helping to explain the idea of self-organized criticality and what it means, where it comes from and stuff. So in complex systems, like organizations or ecosystems or communities or economies, failures can have a very large distance between cause and effect. And what we think is the cause, or what we think of as the cause, isn't really the cause at all. It may just be one tiny piece of it. It's probably just a thing that happened closest to the failure. It's the proximate cause, or the failure being an accident or incident, an avalanche or market crash. So how do we explain this? How do we model this? Well, self-organized criticality is one excellent way of doing that, and it's from the world of physics, but it's largely used, in fact it's heavily used in ecology, and it comes from a paper released by Purbach, Chowtang and Kurt Wiesenfeld in 1986, and it's called Self-Organized Criticality. Their goal in the paper was explaining fractal looking patterns in nature, and particularly in earthquakes. They were looking at earthquakes and what causes an earthquake. The takeaway line from the paper really is that big events don't need big causes, they need loaded systems. And to explain this idea, they used what is now a classic model of the sandpile metaphor. It's a simplification of the model, and SOC, self-organized criticality, we often just call SOC or SOC. SOC is often just called the sandpile model, but there's actually a lot more to it than the sandpile model itself. In the sandpile model, as a way to describe it, we imagine a flat surface and a steady dropping of grains of sand at random places on this surface. Now, over time, if we do this quite a lot, that will result in little mounds of sand at random places throughout this surface. And over more time, steeper slopes form on these piles of sand as grains accumulate on them. And every now and then there'll be a small avalanche as the grains accumulate and the sides get a bit steeper. Now they're fairly frequent, but they're harmless. They follow a power law distribution. We'll see this, we'll talk about that in a minute. As some of these piles get bigger and bigger and bigger, some of these piles reach a critical state. One extra grain might do nothing, or it could unleash an avalanche and collapse. So, and in that sense, it's not the last grain's fault, it's the shape of the pile that caused the avalanche. And we can think about this in organizations, in ecosystems, climate change, communities, economies, markets, earthquakes, and many more situations. This has been shown to apply in all of those contexts and lots more. We should just clarify what we mean by self-organization as well. The self-organization in this context means that through nothing but the system's own internal interactions and feedback loops, the system organizes itself until it sits on the brink of a critical threshold for dramatic change. But we usually can't see where that threshold is until it's passed. And we often see this with things like, let's say, for example, earthquakes. So how do we apply this to our own context, right? So workplaces, our organizations that we work in, can be considered sandpiles, or in fact multiple collections of lots of sandpiles. And particularly if we think about safety, each near miss, each rule bypass, each small hazard can be considered a grain of risk. Each unsafe behavior or even a badly responded to question or mistake could be seen as a grain of risk. And over time, these grains steepen the slope invisibly. This is, if you're thinking about Decker's drift into failure and Vaughan's normalization of deviance or normalization of risk, then yeah, you're on the right lines. This is very much analogous to those ideas. Accidents in workplaces are shown to follow power law distributions. We mentioned this before. Minor incidents are more common, whilst catastrophes, big failures, are much more rare, but they're on the same curve. So in this sense, if we can reduce the degree and frequency of minor incidents, in theory at least, and data shows that this is true, we can reduce the likelihood of catastrophes. Now, what this means as well is that long calm periods do not necessarily equal low risk, because we're not finding out about those those extra grains of sand that are landing. Long calm periods, in fact, are hiding, they're masking where the slope is growing, the slope is steepening. Yeah, because so long calm periods, like if you think about the Deepwater Horizon incident, the catastrophe there, that long calm period before, when they had 7 years without an LTI, that was when the slope was growing invisibly steeper. So this power law distribution means that tackling those tiny issues flattens the whole distribution. We do that through things like psychological safety, closing the gap between work as imagined and work as done, running good debriefs, safety moments, reviews, reporting, and all that sort of good stuff, carrying out audits, observations, simulations, and more, reducing the local steepness of the piles. So, next time you see a tiny, unsafe shortcut or workaround, picture a snowflake landing on a snowy mountainside. Is that the one that causes the avalanche, or is it just contributing to the steepness of the pile? And that sooner or later, something is going to cause that avalanche. Something is going to trigger that avalanche, and it will be the collective shape of the pile that has done so. So, hit like, subscribe, and head over to psychsafety.com for more information, resources, training, meetups, access to our online community, downloads, and loads of stuff more. And of course, as always, email me at tom@psychsafety.com if you'd like to get in touch and ask any questions and do all that stuff. And please comment if you've got any criticisms, suggestions, improvements, things you like, as always, and I'll see you next time.